Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where love 'em or hate 'em, Jimmy Cameron continues to be the king of the world. That's, of course, a famous line from his movie Titanic, but he said it when he won one of his Titanic Oscars, and at the time, Hollywood was pretty upset with him for doing that. They were like, what a jerk. But now they're loving him because he's the only thing, or one of the only things holding them up. But now he's joined forces with the mouse. Hilarious, 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 hilarious. We're in uncharted territory in Hollywood, and it makes for strange bedfellows. Because, what's better than a 0% drop from Christmas weekend, which was what was being reported yesterday? How about a 6% increase, baby? It went up. It went up. Oh my God, what a roller coaster. I said Avatar 2 was like going on a ride, and it is indeed quite the thrilling experience. And why did it go up? Because it posted a better Sunday than expected. I saw it again on New Year's Eve during the day, and I checked what the seats were looking like yesterday, and it was almost sold out in a lot of the premium screens. So, did you see Avatar over the New Year's holiday weekend? I told you this would be a hot week for the 3+ hour sequel, with everyone still off for the holidays, but lots more free time now that Christmas is unwrapped. And as a result, Avatar 2 posted many of the best weekdays of 2022, like the best Wednesday, the best Tuesday, stuff like that. But then it had a big flourish on Sunday, where it earned the third best New Year's Day ever, bested only by himself and the return of Star Wars. Jimmy even managed to edge out Spidey. That's incredible! Speaking of Spidey, that's the only film during the pandemic so far to clear $1 billion overseas, just overseas. Just overseas, it made $1 billion. But Avatar 2 will soon clear that same hurdle, like this week. Avatar 2 is now a little past $1.4 billion in just 3 weeks, which puts it at number 13 on the all-time list, closing in fast on Gun Maverick, which had previously, and still technically is, the highest grossing film of the year, but not for long. Now, the question is, how much gas does Avatar 2 have left in the tank? I'd be curious. What are your bets on this? The first Avatar was a technological marvel thanks to what it did with 3D, and it was number one all through January after its release. And it even went up itself in February for the President's Day weekend by 3%. But the competition, that being back in 2010, wasn't that tough. But fast forward to today, where it's much more cutthroat. And Avatar 2, it certainly boasts the most impressive 3D that I've ever seen, but I wouldn't call it another technological marvel. Speaking of Marvel, the MCU has Quantumania set for President's Day weekend, so that is very strong competition. Even though it's Ant-Man, it's supposed to be a big picture. And I know some people who are burned out on Marvel, and they think that trailer looks good. So I was like, really? Maybe Quantumania will perform. But I feel there's solid competition even before Quantumania, like this very Friday with Megan. Could Avatar 2 get unseated from the top spot that quickly? We'll see what Megan's reviews are like when the review embargo lifts on Wednesday. I'm seeing it tomorrow night. Last week, I wagered that Avatar 2 would get to $1.7 billion. That was my conservative bet. And then one of you prices righted me, Rashad did, at 1.8. But I think that's kind of what we're dealing with what's the point going to be after the 1? Because it's still a good $300 million away from even 1.7. However, overseas is going just as strong, and overseas is much bigger. Like when overseas kicks into gear, that's a lot of money over there. As you can see, it's at like $1 billion overseas. It also went up 6% overseas, by the way. So it went up 6% across the board, which I find fascinating. So now I feel that Avatar 2, like Spider-Man No Way Home, will come just shy of the $2 billion mark. I still don't think it's going to reach $2 billion. It might. That would be wonderful. Because, we want movies to still do well in theaters. But I think it's going to come in just under that. And whether that includes edging out Spidey once more, we'll see. Could they both be in the 1.9 range? That would be interesting. Also, the Friday before Christmas, mid-December, like the teens, has become cemented as an incredible release date. Woo! It was supposed to be Star Wars and Avatar alternating on that date for the foreseeable future. Disney was like, let's get this up and running. But then Kathleen Kennedy conked out, and she still hasn't been able to get Star Wars back on track in the film division. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Rogue Squadron, of course, was supposed to open next year, but, Patty Jenkins insists that's still an option. Maybe, I don't know. Like as I said, she's sitting next to Rian Johnson in the Star Wars waiting room, which is actually empty. But anyway, we're going to talk about Rian Johnson's Glass Onion in a moment. But so now Warner Brothers Discovery is saving their pennies so they can release a movie in December. In fact, 2! They have Wonka coming out on that magical, teen date in December. And then just a few days later, Aquaman is supposed to open on Christmas Day. That seems ridiculous to me. The first Aquaman opened December 21st. It had a preview the weekend before, which was weird. But it got to $1 billion, which everybody always forgets. But I think, having those two movies so close together to me seems ridiculous. Is Wonka a $1 billion picture? We have to get a better look at it. I'm not quite sure considering the talent involved. They're charming talent, but you don't get to $1 billion with charming. But as for Aquaman 2, even though the first movie did, I think, there's pretty much, these movies are DOA, considering the fact that James Gunn's clearly, it seems, he'll make it official in the next few weeks, going to do like a full reboot. So why would you go see, some people will see Aquaman 2, but I don't think $1 billion. Is it worth undercutting Wonka for that? But is Wonka enough to hold up all of December? Disney's probably going to be like, we'll see if Disney decides to maybe put something there. Because it's, there's also the new Ghostbusters is coming out around then, but that seems very weak to me. We'll see. I think Aquaman 2 could end up on HBO Max or whatever Zazie decides to call it. But yeah, that's a hot date. Hot date for Blockbusters. But the bottom line here, it's not going to make as much as the first Avatar. That's fine. The first Avatar made close to $3 billion. But the bottom line is that even after 13 years, Avatar is an incredibly strong franchise. Yet another one for Disney. 3 of their 2022 releases have crossed 400 million domestic. That's great. Avatar 2 might not make what the first one did, but as we've been discussing, Jimmy Cameron still got 2 movies into the all-time top 10. That is incredible. That is a franchise. I still would put a break between 4 and 5, and he's actually been talking about that. He's like, well, Avatar 3 will come out, but then we might take a little bit of a break. And I'm like, good thinking. But, also, we are also seeing that with the right movie, the global box office is in pre-pandemic shape. And we keep talking about getting back to normal, even a new normal, but I think we might be here. Some of you have been saying that. Last week I was like, when are things going to return to normal? Things are getting closer to normal. And in the comments, some of you were like, Grace, this is normal. And I agree with you. I don't think the top 10 will ever fully recover. We've been looking at a pretty weak sauce top 10. It's bad. It's really, in my opinion, now become a top 5 because, often the movies below that will do just $1 million or less. And, we've been thinking that's going to improve. But now I'm thinking maybe it's not. I think that this is due, of course, to the pandemic speeding up the evolution of and audience acceptance of streaming. I still feel movie theaters could up their game a little bit to better compete. And we'll see if they do. Again, you guys need more premium screens. It's ridiculous. You have these other screens taking up so much space at your multiplex. And if you go and look at ticket sales, which you can do on Fandango, you can check seats, a great feature, by the way. And you can see that the non-premium screens are just a wasteland with a sprinkling of people. But the premium screens book up their theater, like Broadway shows. That's people want those hot seats because it's just a better experience. So we'll see. I think there's still some even though this is the new normal, that doesn't mean that the players aren't going to adjust their game to the new normal. And they're still, I think, in the process of doing that. So I guess we're not totally settled in just yet. But I think that in terms of what the audience wants to do, unless movie theaters become better, we're kind of there. As for studios adjusting to this new situation and working with streaming, Universal and Disney continue to lead the way with 2 very different strategies. As we discussed in the look at the overall 2022 box office, I hope you'll check out that video. But Universal is still viewing theatrical as its own separate space that they're working to maximize as much as possible. They have that tiny 17-day window for mid and low performing flicks. Then they send it to digital for purchase or insanely high rental price. Then it drops down to a regular rental price. And only then after that does it hit Peacock. And I think the fact that not a lot of people have Peacock helps Universal's strategy, because people are like, I'm not going to wait for it to hit Peacock because I don't have Peacock, so I will buy it now on digital. But Disney, a lot of people have Disney Plus, which is interesting. Although wait till we talk about the most pirated shows. We're having fun today, but Disney, at least under Chapek, looked at itself not as just a single large empire, but as an ecosystem. Oh, I like that word for this. It's an ecosystem where it only matters how many dollars come in overall, not necessarily where they're coming in from. Chapek was, although the stock eventually is what did Chapek in. And although I gotta tell ya, I hope Bob Iger hits 2023 running, because he did not snap his fingers like Mary Poppins and fix Disney. It seems exactly the same. All right, so anyway, yeah, that's what I would say if I were the board. I'd be like, are you gonna Mary Poppins this shit or what, man? He's like, I'm Mary Poppins returning it. And you're like, oh, that's what got us. All right, I'd be like, Julie Andrews version, please. But anyway, so Disney has more franchises than any other studios. And they can rely on them to easily dominate the theatrical space, even with fewer theatrical releases than the other studios. They're just flipping them out. They're like, here's Marvel, here's Star Wars, here's Avatar. They are getting a little bit too lazy, and again, as we've discussed, I think they're kind of seeing the beginning of kind of audience blowback because of that. But it's very hard to quit Disney, because more than any other studio, they are a way of life. I love them. I look at Disney Instagram stuff every day. I love Disney. Bob Iger is back, and he fired Kareem Daniel, who Chapek had made the king of the Disney universe. If only we'd been able to use that for Kareem Daniel. I feel that would have been so cool. Because Kareem Daniel was the one who decided which projects would go where for maximum financial return. But creative department heads, obviously, didn't take too kindly to that decision being taken out of their hands. I don't know. You want your department heads to be happy, but at the same time, I'm running a company here, man. But again, Iger fired Daniel and put that decision back in the hands of his department heads. So let's see how it goes. Maybe, I suspect we'll see far fewer films going directly to Disney Plus as they did in 2022. Who's going to voluntarily send their own film to Disney Plus? They don't want to, they don't want to admit that maybe it should go there sometimes, right? You have to have, Kareem Daniel had to have that hard decision, or maybe he didn't even bother to discuss it with them and be like, it's a Disney Plus movie. As to the rest, I have to say, Turning Red, I think, benefited from being on Disney Plus. I don't think that would have done well in theaters. And I think on Disney Plus, it did very well and was Pixar's best received film of the year as a result. Some of you were like, Turning Red's going to win Best Picture, Grace. Let's see. I like it, but I still think Pinocchio, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, or Puss in Boots are better animated movies. As for the rest of the top 10, as I said, it's bleak stuff. Since the weather was so horrible for Christmas weekend, there were increases across the board, but for much less dollars. Like, if you increase by 35%, a very low number, it's not anything to get excited about. But it's better than the alternative. Puss in Boots 2 might have surged 35% in its second weekend, but it's still a good $30 million behind Sing 2 from last year. Ouch! It seems it's going to be a little harder to bring back Shrek than it was Avatar. No actual main Shrek characters are in Puss in Boots 2, but man, it's such a good movie. Why aren't you seeing Puss in Boots 2 in theaters, considering how incredible, not just I've been raving about it, but how amazing the audience scores have been. Everybody loves this movie. Why are you waiting to stream it? I hope you're at least going to stream it. It's so good. After Black Panther Wakanda Forever in the top 10, which, by the way, I saw a rumor surface that it'll be hitting digital and Disney Plus. That's how Disney does it. It hits digital and Disney Plus for no extra cost on the same day. That's January. Disney Plus is now more expensive, if you don't want any ads and you weren't locked in at the price point. I did. Ka-ching. Right before it flipped over, I locked in, I renewed for a year. But anyway, January 20th is the rumor. I would think January 13th, quite frankly. That makes more sense to me, as it would release for the Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. That just seems like an obvious day to put it out there, just to supercharge it once again, to give people just another reason to revisit it. I only saw it once, actually. I ended up only seeing it once. I'd like to watch that again. Maybe we'll do a watch along. Let me know if you'd be interested in and we'll do it, we'll still have the movie club private watch along, but this would be, I think it should be for everybody, right? Tell me if enough people are interested. We'll see. But the rest of the movies, well, it's pretty clear audiences feel that these are streaming movies. If Kareem Daniel doesn't want to tell you, audiences will, or can't tell you now. Violent Night is already on streaming and did like the best of the bunch pretty much, after that 17-day window. And the menu did okay. It did better than a lot of these other awards films. And that, by the way, hits digital tomorrow. I didn't love the menu. I do feel it's a great streaming movie. I don't think I would have enjoyed it in theaters. I know some of you did, and I know some people who did. But I watched my critics screener, for awards season, and it was a good stream. Have a cheeseburger. That's all I'm gonna say. Have a cheeseburger while you watch that movie. But it was fun. I thought it was more of a short story, like a Shirley Jackson short story, than a full movie. But it has an incredible cast, and it's a gorgeous film. It looks beautiful. It's very well filmed. It's fun. And then speaking of stream, although they can't keep doing this stuff, White Lotus was great, and we're like, oh, Glass Onion is kind of like White Lotus, and this is a little bit like that too. It's a lot. They can't. They're really, Hollywood loves to repeat a formula that is successful, but they're really repeating this one into the ground. I don't think we're tired of it just yet, though. Speaking of streaming, we can't go over Nielsen charts this week because once again, they're on vacation. What? There isn't like an intern that can press publish, it's not like this is like during the actual holiday. I mean, I worked between Christmas and New Year's. This is important stuff, man. Nielsen already is under attack from the studios because they don't like them putting out these numbers. You'd think they would be on top of their game. All right, but so we'll talk about those numbers when they do come out. But we can talk about the other big movie over the holidays, Netflix's Glass Onion, which surprisingly wasn't a huge juggernaut after all, only coming in 6th for most watched Netflix movies in 3 days, even though it came out over Christmas weekend during a record storm that kept most of the country at home. Did Netflix not only play Grinch to movie theaters with their 1-week stunt over Thanksgiving, but steal their own Christmas thunder as well? I think they did. Perhaps Glass Onion didn't feel as fresh and new considering it had already been released a month earlier, even if it was just for a week. I think maybe some people were like, I know a lot of you watched it. I watched it again. I watched my awards screener a few days before so I could do my spoiler review, but I loved watching it again at home. So, it's a weird situation. One could maybe say that the film was a little political, which might have limited its audience, but you don't get more political than Don't Look Up, and that did better, although Leo DiCaprio, one of the few movie stars left, and we just keep seeing reasons why. But speaking of stars, while Glass Onion is a star-studded murder mystery, perhaps Rian Johnson needs better stars. Some of you even commented to me that you felt this cast didn't match the caliber of the first Knives Out. And we're not just talking Chris Evans, but I think Jamie Lee Curtis is a little bit of a bigger name, right? I don't know, Don Johnson. It seems kind of comparable to me. It's just interesting. Something Rian Johnson might want to keep in mind when casting Glass Onion 3, which he said he's begun writing already. But speaking of Christmas presents, Netflix gave us some goodies this year, releasing their most popular films and TV shows of 2022. Through December 18th only, though. So Glass Onion and Emily in Paris Season 3 don't factor into this list. What? So let's just go over the TV really quick. There's nothing big in the movies chart, but I want to talk about TV for the week of Christmas. So Emily in Paris Season 3 had a phenomenal debut Christmas week right before Wednesdays, the Wednesday show. It's like who's on first with Wednesday. I've talked to a lot of people about Wednesday, and they've been like, what, the day of the week? I'm like, no, Wednesday Addams. So anyway, that's in its 5th week, and it's still number 1. But Emily in Paris, that's a very strong debut for that show. While The Recruit continues to do very well, and it's kind of become a millennial version of Jack Ryan, so that's great. We don't know how Jack Ryan did yet because Nielsen is so far behind and doesn't always publish their numbers. But look at The Witcher Blood Origin. That debuted at number 7. Ooh. It was never going to have Henry Cavill in it, but I think you're seeing a sneak peek of a Henry Cavill-less Witcher. So that means he's dead to Netflix, at least for the foreseeable future, because that's just so bad. I know there are now, some things about like maybe they didn't want him or the people working on the show didn't even want him to stick around. It was like, nobody wants this, but why does he have to be that way, man? Why can't he be the star that people want him to be? He was really good on The Witcher. Harry and Meghan also fell off considerably in its 3rd week, after its two weeks of releasing new content. So this is the first week it didn't release any new episodes. So that means it's really more of an event than an evergreen series. So I think that Netflix will have to factor that into any future deals with Harry and Meghan for, stories about them. Well, we'll see. As for Netflix's 2022 overall charts, we'll start with TV. And as we've been discussing, Stranger Things 4, Wednesday, and Dahmer have not only dominated this year, but Netflix's all-time charts. All-time! While Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy both continue to be powerhouse deliverers for the streamer, worth every penny for their production deals. It's awesome to see Ozark's final season. I still believe that Ozark in a few years will come back, especially with the way they ended it. But it's so nice to see that final season so high up on this list because, it's hard to stay in the conversation these days. And Ozark, especially from awards, has kind of faded away. So I'm so happy that the numbers are there. And speaking of relief, it's a relief to see both Sandman and the Umbrella Academy make the cut. I think they have one more season of Umbrella Academy and maybe just one more season of Sandman, but I'm excited to see both those stories continue. As for non-English shows, today we're going to go over both English and non-English categories. As for non-English shows, Korean content continues to be king. And not just genre content. It's really great to see the uplifting series Extraordinary Attorney Woo place second. Over with movies, the Russo brothers have found new life post-Marvel on Netflix, delivering another huge hit after Extraction. Not only helping them, but former Avengers who, struggle themselves outside of Marvel. But on Netflix, they post big numbers. This is also surprising for Ryan Gosling, who also has struggled at the box office, the theatrical box office. So this is huge for him. His agent should although I think Ryan Gosling's agent should be like, did you see The Gray Man? And if the person says no, it'd be like, look at these numbers. But if the person saw The Gray Man, they would know that it was not good. I think, Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers were like, we'd like to come back to Marvel and do Secret Wars. And Kevin Feige was like, I don't hear anybody, do you? Because I think Kevin Feige watched these movies. Although Extraction was good. I liked Extraction, even though it was on a smaller scale. What's one of the things I think is good about it? Extraction is like their John Wick. In fact, although I saw the John Wick trailer 4 in front of Avatar in Dolby this weekend, it looks so beautiful. I'm so excited. All right, so anyway, in fact, a lot of big stars are earning their big paychecks over at Netflix. They're delivering, and it's nice to see excellent documentary The Tinder Swindler, that was so good, and charming animated movie The Sea Beast, also excellent on this chart as well. People are watching good stuff, man. It's great. With non-English movies, Norway's Troll dominated, and that only came out recently, so that's how well it did. While Germany's All Quiet on the Western Front is runner-up and is doing surprisingly well this awards season. I need to watch that. I was against it because I didn't think it was good to remake such a classic film. But, everybody says it's really good, and it's January, so I think I'll give it a whirl. And here's a fun chart, the most pirated shows of 2022. And once again, Game of Thrones is right on top with House of the Dragon at number 1. But look at that! Rings of Power is right behind it, along with The Boys. Don't you guys want free 2-day shipping? Why are you not subscribed to Amazon Prime? It's also interesting to see so much Disney Plus content being pirated, considering how cheap the service has been up until now. And it's still cheap if you're willing to watch ads, and I don't think they're putting that many ads. Do any of you have ads on Disney Plus? What's it like? I think some of you are pirating out of spite. I think you are. Over on iTunes, not only is Glass Onion propelling Knives Out to number 1, the original, but so is the fact that it's on sale. Along with Everything Everywhere All at Once, the frontrunner for Best Picture this year. I do believe that will probably win. Maybe Avatar too, but I think it's going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I'm cool with that. As a handful of awards films are also in the top 10, as you'd rather watch these at home than in theaters, and I don't blame you. While many of you are still catching up on or revisiting the first Avatar as well. I continue also to be so happy to see The Woman King doing so well on digital. Go baby go! What a great movie. All right, as for this coming week in theaters, Megan hopes to be the first big movie of 2023. It's from James Wan and his team and a number of the people who actually even worked on *Malignant* with him. And I hope that I love *Malignant*. That was some crazy stuff. It was awesome, and it came out during the pandemic though. So I'm hoping that Megan can build on that and be a true hit. We'll see. I'm seeing it again tomorrow night. While A Man Called Otto expands to more theaters after debuting in just 4 theaters, with only a moderate per theater average. Tom Hanks is also supposed to be one of the few movie stars left, but he might have geppettoed himself out of that category, maybe. Also, it's a remake of a foreign language film when you should really just watch the original film. I don't see A Man Called Otto doing well and in theaters or in awards season, quite frankly. On streaming, The Pale Blue Eye hits Netflix on Friday. I tried to watch White Noise, by the way. Turned it off after 10 minutes. Although Adam Driver was compelling, and so was Don Cheadle. It was like watching like bad spoken poetry. Literally. Did anyone get through it? As for shows, The Bad Batch drops 2 episodes on Wednesday. I'm almost done with the 14 episodes that they've given me, but the review embargo lifts when the show drops, which is weird to me because I don't know why they would do that. It's good. All right, so anyway, and Netflix has season 2 of Ginny and Georgia on Thursday. Now here, this is interesting. In the spirit of talking about non-English language shows on the annual charts, there's some pretty good stuff from Netflix this very week. Austria's Woman of the Dead hits Thursday, and then also Danish thriller Copenhagen Cowboy, which is from Nicholas Winding Refn. Remember him? Speaking of Ryan Gosling, remember him? So that seems pretty interesting to me. I just looked at the trailer before I did my notes here because I was like, oh, wow. And then it looked like a music video, to be honest with you. I mean, it got old real fast, but the music was good. All right, so that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of the new normal in Hollywood? Who's making it work and who's not? Who are you rooting for? Who do you think can turn things around? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.